Hello, I'm going to talk about the next section for this final exam, which will be conditional, loop, and for statements. So conditional statements, like if else, if, they're used to set the conditions so a program can do something. So let's say if 1 is equal to 1, then it will proceed with that program that's written into it. Loop statements run while the condition is true. So loop, say while a is equal to 1, then it'll keep repeating itself. For statements, they run while there's still iterations left. So in here in this integer area, oops. So each iteration will add a 1 to the counter. It starts at 0, and then in this example, it starts at 0, and then the next iteration will add up to 1, 2, 3, up until it reaches 4. Once it reaches 4, that'll be the last iteration because 4 is less than 5. So it's kind of like a loop, but only with a limited number of executions. Let's go ahead and go into C++ here. So the first one we'll talk about is if. So let's say if A or B, or let's just put numbers in here, 3 is equal to 3. And we'll see out star. File, run. So there we go. We have our star. Let's change that number to 4. See if we still get our star. We don't get a star or anything because 4 is not equal to 3. This is comparing the values of both sides. So we can also use true is equal to true. As long as both sides are equal, we will get the if statement to proceed with its execution. Okay. So the next one is the if else. So let's change this to false. So that will not be true. Else proceeds when this is not true, when this is not going to happen. So we could see out string of letters. Compile and run. So it skipped past this because false is not equal to true. These are two different values for Boolean. So it goes over to the else and it proceeds to run with this iteration. We also have if, else, if statements. This is another instance. So let's say 3 is equal to 3. Then it should run with this line of code. Compile and run. So it skips past this because this is still not true, but this is. So if we assign both of them to be true, we should only get the first line there to run. See, this is true, so it executes this line of code. This line of code is ignored because it's an else if statement. This is true, so it doesn't even register this. We can have as many else ifs as we want. Say 4 is not equal to 5. That should be true. We'll give this numbers to be able to distinguish it easier than the previous else if line there. Okay, let's change this to false. Reads as a false. Now we will have just this because this is the first else if statement in the code. If we change this, it should read onto the next statement here, this one. Because it goes in order. If this is false, then it goes to this. If this is false, it'll go to the next one. But let's say that, and we can just include an else statement at the very end. If all these are false, it will execute this line of code here. This line. Compile and run. So all these are false because 4 is not equal to 3, nor is it equal to 5, and these are not equal. So it executes this line. The next one we'll do is while, a while loop. Let's get rid of all this empty space. Okay. So while 3 is, we'll make some new integers here. Integer a is equal to a and b are equal to 3. While a is equal to b, see out, we'll see out stars again. And at the end of this, we'll also attach an increment so that one of those values changes. Otherwise, you will get an infinitely recurring loop. Compile and run. Did not get anything there. While a is equal to b. Okay, there we go. I fixed the issue. When I initialized these, I did not initialize them correctly. So now we have integer a and integer b. We'll set b to 5, and we'll split this as a less than. Look, less than. So 3 is less than 5, correct. And switch this to 7. So with this while loop, we should have while a is less than b, it'll run this line and add a star, and then it'll increment a by 1. So this should be the limiting factor on the while, which prevents it from going into an infinite loop. So compile and run. So there we go. It runs 4 times before it reaches the limit here. The next one is the for loop. So we will delete this. For integer I, assign the value of 0. The count we can leave to 5. So this is like the previous one, but it already has the limits built in. So integer I starts at 0. This is the counter. And when it gets to, as long as it is below 5, it'll run. And each iteration will add a value, add 1 to I. So we'll see out 0, or yes, 0. And we'll end the line. Now we compile and run. So we have 5 zeros for every time that it runs. It'll run at 0, at 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now what we can also do here is include a for loop within the for loop. Change the variable here, and we'll just run it twice. See out, back to stars here, and line. So what this is going to do, for every one iteration this one is going to run twice. And then it'll increment the I, and this will run twice again. So now we compile and run. And it's just going to keep running because I did not change this I here. So let's trash this, change this back to A. Okay, so what I did just now was I created an infinite loop because I did not change the A or the I to an A. So it still counted it as that. But once you do this, it'll run this iteration twice for every time this one is run once. So we can compile and execute. It runs more than just the 4 times it did previously, as you can see. And that is all I have for this section.